He said, you tried to break me. He said, it's my time now. And that's how I feel now too. You tried to break me, but now it's my time. And you gonna listen, and you gonna listen to me today. I'm not necessarily fighting for people to listen to me. It's more so for me to listen to myself and say, hey, this is what happened, but this does not define you.
You've arrived at the Mental Health Spotlight podcast with therapist Kais.
3 takeaways from today's interview with Antonio. How did he survive? 9 years of abuse in an adoptive home, separation from his bio family far before that, 11 different placements, and aging out of the foster care system without a forever home. He tells us how he did it with resilience, community, and faith. Stay tuned.
I think it's funny that we chatted for so long in the hallway and almost recorded this whole thing, and now we're sitting down to do it. Which is
I know. But I think we've had this conversation about some of these things for quite a while. So
100 times, maybe.
Yep.
But maybe not all of it. I'm kind of looking forward to what angle we take on this conversation today.
I am too. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So I'm going to welcome you, Antonio, and someone I've known for 20 years. Is that what we're saying?
Yes, I'm 29, so I will say at least about 20 years.
About 20 years.
That sounds about right. Might be even longer than that.
It could be. And normally I start this off and I say, you tell me about your story. But I'd like to first start by saying how extraordinary a person you are. So that when people even consider listening to this, I think knowing ahead of time that your story is extraordinary. Not just because of what you've been through and the path you were on that did not give you many opportunities up front, maybe later, but also in what you've done with your lot, if you will, and what you've been given and what you've been able to turn it into. And now what you're trying to do in advocacy. So that was the word that came to mind when I thought of you. And so I wanted to just begin by saying you're extraordinary, and I'm happy to sit in space with you.
Yeah, I want to say thank you because I think I don't always look at it that way, if I'm being honest. Even more so recently, somebody had to tell me, I said, well, everybody has a story. Everybody has a bad tune. And you know what they said to me? But everybody doesn't have your story. And that kind of stuck with me a little bit. I was like, I'm like,
Yeah, not a lot of people have your story.
Yeah. That's why what I'm starting to realize, and that's really why I'm here today.
Yeah. Because it is a special story.
Yeah.
And just so we can chat and actually record it and see how entertaining we are just chatting.
Yeah.
We might behave. And normally we're sitting in front of a really great meal. I kind of feel a little devoid of that. I don't have candy, I don't have anything here.
Yeah. I'm hanging out somewhere at a gathering with you. Yeah. And so, it's nice to be able to sit here and let's I think we're letting people in on some of our normal conversations, I would say, over the years.
Yeah. And probably some of the things you've learned, that's ways you've inspired me. So hopefully we'll capture a few of those nuggets for people
I inspire you?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, you do. Why? Really? Have I never said that along with you being extraordinary?
Maybe you have and I don't remember. That could be part of it. I think the other part of it is, I think because I know how long you've been doing this work, I'm sure you've seen a lot. So that's the other part about it too. It's like, this shouldn't be anything new. Like nothing about my story is unique here. I mean, you've been working with youth and troubled youth, and I don't even know if trouble is the right word, but just people just come from challenging backgrounds.
Yeah. Well, maybe you're unique because your story is unique. But also, I think just because I've known you for so long. So I've got to watch it happen. People who do what I do rarely get to watch somebody's world evolve the way I've watched yours. That is a gift that I've had, that a lot of people work with somebody and they go off into the world and they guess, or maybe they'll hear something they don't always know. And because of some of the nuances of our relationship that was built because of how you foster cared out, it allowed me to stay in that storyline. So I have a unique window. But we're going to get to all that.
Let's do it.
I guess I'm going to let you talk now. Tell us a little bit about your history as far as kind of some of the places that you transitioned in and out of. Like, because you did a lot of transitioning in youth, and I think that starts the storyline, doesn't it, a little bit?
It does. So if I just kind of give it like a kind of a timeline from me understanding, again, things before I could understand what happened. So at 18 months, I went into foster care. And I was placed basically into foster care. That same family, around the age of 6 or 7, they adopted me. I was with that family, so basically 18 months as a foster child. 6 or 7, adoption became final. There were some challenges for them to be able to adopt me. that got figured out. And around the age of 9 or 10, I went back into foster care.
So you were with them for a long time.
I was.
I don't think I realized
of my
that.
Foundational years, I was.
Yeah.
And so what's unique about it too, even when we talk about like, my experience with, I don't know if I can say that, Beachbrook.
Yeah, you can. Absolutely.
So my experience with Beachbrook, that carried me, even through, not even just foster care, but through my time when I was adopted. Because even one of the times I was in residential treatment, I was adopted.
Interesting. Okay. So some of that I missed because I met you right on that cusp of that. Mm-hmm. So you were there that long. And then transitioning to Beachbrook.
Even went there for school for a tier. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And so it started there. And I aged out of care. So I went back into foster care about 9 or 10, and then I aged out. And so there's a lot that happened in between there.
How many placements in between? I mean, I think that's relevant because there were a lot.
I would say at least about 10. There was at least 10 placements, at least 10.
It still blows my mind.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And by placements, if people listening don't understand, these are foster care placements or institutional placements.
Correct.
Where you called them home for a period of time.
Yes.
And you transitioned at least 10 times with 10 different families.
Yes. I think especially when I first got back into foster care, on average, I transitioned every 5 months. Yeah,
it was a lot there for a minute.
Yeah, because I had a lot of challenges, I think, coming into foster care, like basically getting adoption reversed. That was a process too, and having to go back and forth to court about that too, and going back into foster care. That was a scary time period. Yeah, it was a lot there.
And you were young. Like, think of the age. It was a very formative time in your life where other kids are developing sense of identity. They're developing their education path. They're grounding themselves as a person. And that's when you were bouncing. And I think that's what makes it so tenable that you were doing it.
Guys, everything you just listed are some of the challenges that I faced, even going into early adulthood, even going through, like, because again, I ended up going to college, and I'm just going to kind of put that there. I ended up graduating. And statistically, you will look at foster youth, I think less than 50% of us even graduate high school.
If even.
And then less than, I would say on average, less than, I think about 3%. Yeah, it was 3 to 6%. But we'll even get your bachelor's degree, and I think around the same numbers for an associate degree. Yeah. And even just kind of dropping a disclaimer there too, I was able to participate in a scholarship program at Cleveland State University called the Sullivan Deckard Scholars Program.
What was it called again?
Sullivan Deckard Scholars Program at Cleveland State.
And is it still going on? Because I'll put these things in show notes if they're still relevant.
I think they need, and I will give you some more resources too, because some have been sent to me even recently saying, hey, if I know youth who have been impacted by foster care, to reach out. And I think I shared some of that information with you.
You did. That's something you sent me then, because this was pivotal for you. And we're going to jump around, and that's okay, because the reason this story is so cool at this stage is you did find something that helped guide you out of aging out, which aging out means you did not have a foster home for life. You did not find a family for life. I mean,
I didn't, adoption, that was no longer in the cards for me. But yeah, that scholarship program, I really wanted to shout out that program. And even so more so, I want to shout out a lady by the name Dr. Charlize Pratt.
Charlize Pratt? Did I say it right? Charlize Pratt.
She passed, but she did a lot of work with just youth, in particular troubled youth. But she created the program. There were donors who donated, the Sullivan Deckard families. I want to thank them too. But she created the curriculum, did the research, built out the program for there to be a program to really help youth transition and to make even college something that was attainable to us.
And independent living as well, since you're not going home to a home.
No, but that's part of the program design was year-round housing. They factored that in, and the donors being able to cover between. It's like very holistic. I mean, they wanted to make sure that we didn't have anything to worry about. They did the best that they could.
They wrapped around you.
They did.
Yeah. And I have to say something though. Mm-hmm. You would think, as we did our little intro, that you would break into and then this, and you know that. And instead, you're like, I'd like to thank the following people for helping me. Like, that's pretty cool that after everything we're going to discuss, one of the first things in your mind was to thank these people that provided this program for you.
Yeah, and I say that because that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here today.
Yeah.
And so one thing I want to say is that it takes a community. I think that was the biggest thing as I was reflecting on my journey, and people look at, again, as people get to learn more about my journey, my community around me, even to this day, has been very strong.
But you had to find some of that community. That wasn't all just a given for you.
I will say yes. And I will say that too, it was. I did.
And
go ahead.
I would say, so some of the community was the scholarship program, because I know they mentored you. You had to meet with them, but you also met people in the community other ways that supported you at the same time. And and they weren't all foster families.
No,
you have a few foster people that are still in your life. One of them is a brother now.
Yes,
you have a brother that you earned from foster care. Is that a way to say it? That you brought him with you, not necessarily the whole family, but you have a brother for life.
Yeah, I mean the family that's in Dallas, but yeah, that was the last foster home I stayed in. Yeah, we were close too, and I even think about like my college experience too. During breaks, him and his wife, I mean, I was able to go down. I mean, they really that was one thing that was unique about that experience, is because I think when you start going through transitioning through some of these homes, sometimes you can be close to parents, you're not close with their children or their extended family, and then sometimes you're close with the children, but not the parent. This particular individual, I mean, you know, I just always felt like he was family. I never felt like, and I think just that sense of community or just that sense of belonging, he provided that. And it's crazy. He didn't even live there, but he would come back and visit. And even when he was in town, it was like, hey, come on, we're going to hang out.
It always included you.
Yeah. And even during college, I mean, I would catch the Greyhound. They live in Cincinnati at the time. They're now in Dallas, but I would go and catch the Greyhound down there. And I feel like it was a place I could be. And I didn't have to really think. I didn't really have to think about anything. I was at peace. And even to this day, I visit about 4 or 5 times a year. You know, they have kids, and I go and I visit, and it's just like that's my family
and your brother. So you did bring somebody with you. It didn't necessarily look like a traditional adoptive home.
Oh, no.
But you had him. I know there's a few other people like Miss Cross that you still stay in touch with.
That is my mother. I say even to this day, I'm in contact with my biological mother and family too. And again, she birthed me, and I do honor that, and I respect her in that space too. But Mama Cross, I even want to just touch on her too, because you've worked with her, even too with other.
So many people that would hear this that live in this area would be like, I know her. I know her as an educator, as a foster mom, as a community member.
And that's what I want to kind of touch on even with her too, because I think what's unique about her story, just very briefly,
and we can because she's another part of your community, and you started with Let's Talk About Community. So
yes, I look at her too, and this is just like, you know, again, you go somebody who's a nurse by training.
Oh, so and a nurse too. I apologize. I forgot.
Yeah, but that was her original background. And then she went back to school and became, you know, an educator. And now she still teaches nursing to students. But then she birthed 6 of her own children. She's been a teacher for over 20 plus years. But then she turns around, she becomes a foster parent. Yeah. And I look at it and I say, man, you have devoted your life to serving youth. And I don't get emotional. But one thing that I really appreciate about her the most is that when I say if I couldn't go to any place in the world, I knew I can go to her. And we've had our differences, but I think the biggest thing...
As long as you don't live together, you guys are golden.
But even then, I would say about this too, as I mature, you know, it's one thing I realized about her too. She never treated me different than she treated even her own biological children. Right. So even some of the conflict that I had with her, it wasn't unique to me, even her own children. And I think that's one thing about families. And I think one thing I want to, you know, kind of put out there is that you will have conflict in any type of sense of community or relationships too. Yep. And that was something that I did not understand. I think being in foster care too, I felt conflict meant danger, or it meant like something's not right here. Yeah, something's not right here. I need to get out of here. It's unsafe. I need to kind of part ways, because I can even think about some of the homes that I disrupted out of. Some were bad. Some were, I had like a mentality of like, let me self-destruct. Yeah. Let me get out of here before they get rid of me. Because, you know, I think we'll touch into that, but I just kind of want to put it here so I don't forget about it, if that's okay.
No, it's a big one.
Part of what was happening in foster care too, when I would basically disrupt from placements, meaning that, hey, whether it be usually a foster parent that says, hey, I no longer want this child to be here anymore. I think it's better we part
They give their 14 days.
Yeah, their 14-day notice, yeah. How they would do it is that they would wait till you go to school. And so you would leave school thinking you're going home, and the social workers and stuff in there too saying, you're not going back there. And to kind of be called, especially if you did something bad. And I was not, you know, even some of the foster parents can say, I was never really a bad kid. One of the biggest things they would say, I had a smart mouth.
You had a strong voice. I'm going to say that.
And that's how I looked at it. Again, I didn't always be
very willful.
I will definitely say that too. And that was probably the biggest challenge that I had. I had some other things that I think probably might have annoyed them. Things like, you know, food hoarding. And I think that's the other thing, again, I would touch on, I think at some point.
But these are expectations of children who have a higher level of need that are going to be in a foster care setting. You are going to come with some challenges. And yours were not large in the grand scheme.
They weren't.
You were a very tolerable
young man. But it felt
young
like
man.
they were, because you would hear the parents almost talk about you and ostracize you as though, I don't understand. I just fed this kid. I said, but when you're coming from the background I've had, where it's like, I don't know where my next meal is coming from.
Right.
I mean, there would be times, especially when I was adopted, we might go a couple of days with going without food. And so,
because that was an abusive environment, right?
I mean, was. I mean, do you want to talk about that now?
You could, because what you're saying is, not only was this tough for me in the system, not only is the system hard to support me, but I'm coming with all this baggage that you're not going to work out by 8 or 9.
No, you're not.
So you had traumas and things from your early childhood.
Even reflecting that, I didn't even know what was wrong with me. There was a lot of
trauma.
Pain. I mean, yeah. I
You
mean,
didn't
now
know that, though.
I didn't
Now
know.
you
I wouldn't
know.
have put that word to it, but that's really what was going on there. I think even growing up. So one thing I would say about even that home, from day one, there was abuse happening, even as a foster youth too, between physical abuse, emotional abuse. I remember being in preschool having behavior problems, angry outbursts, flipping off of her desk too, and and part of it would be I just had these emotions and I didn't know what to do with them. But a lot of it was the home environment. At this time, I was still going back and forth between my mom having visits, and I even remember it's funny, like even going across the city.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to remember certain locations. Like I remember there was an argument when I was like 6, maybe even 5, between my biological mother and my foster mom, then turned adoptive mom at the time. Even being there, some of the physical abuse that would happen where marks would be left on me. And me visiting my mom, and I remember one particular time going into the bathroom at Metzenvine, which is no longer here in Cuyahoga County.
Yeah. It's a different facility out in Jaga now, but yeah.
Oh, is it?
But it's
I didn't
probably
even know.
it might be different Metzenvines, but yeah.
But even being there, I mean, and her having examined, then my mom having to advocate for me and saying, hey, they're abusing my son. But here's one thing I do. I was a child. I don't say
it's so complicated for you. You had the bio mom advocating, the foster adoptive mom. Like, you didn't know who to trust.
They painted my biological mother in a bad light. And I didn't think I was going to care. Let me deviate a little bit and just give some background to my biological mother. My biological mother is 43. I'm 29 as of today.
Baby.
She's 14. Baby when she had me.
She's 14 when she had you.
Probably about 15, 16. She 15 going on 16.
Really young.
She was young.
Yeah.
And she was in foster care. So originally what I was told was that I was supposed to go as a double placement to the family that adopted me. But my mom...
she would go with you, you mean? You'd go together as a team.
Supposed to be, but that ended up not happening.
Oh. So they would adopt her and you.
Or be a foster placement too. I don't think,
placement.
because my mom was so grown. I think at 14, 15, she knew who her biological family was. She knew she didn't want to deal with any of that too.
But they were going to house both of you together as a team.
Correct.
Okay.
That ended up not happening too. My mom told me about an experience where she was in a facility and they had kind of separated. Hey, we're just going to go just kind of check him out a little bit too. And basically they separated us too. And I would say during that time period.
Well, she didn't know what to do. She was a child.
No, and I remember her fighting to try to get back to me from her telling my story. And I do believe her there too.
I believe her too.
And even too, because what I will say about it is my mother, if I remember correctly, and I do remember, she never harmed me.
Yeah.
She was young. She looked to a system that was going to help support her and even support me. And even so much so, it broke my mom's heart to where she almost committed suicide herself from what she told me.
Really?
And even the social workers were not great at that time period. I think what really happened was that here goes this middle class family. Again, my adopted parents were about late 40s, early 50s. My adopted father was his second marriage. They adopted 4 children. I was one of the 4. None of us were biologically related.
Yeah.
My situation, they had a little bit more challenges adopting me because my mother was advocating and she wanted me back. Also, I had a family history of my family being in the foster care system because one particular home that I was in, there would be this thing called respite.
Yeah.
And there was a girl who would come and stay and she had the same last name as my biological mother. And for some reason, I always thought maybe we were related.
Interesting.
For years.
Yeah.
And come to find out, a social worker told me that was my first cousin. That was my mom's sister's daughter.
Isn't that interesting? So the system was already ingrained in the culture.
Yes,
Yeah.
because even what happened to my family was, you think about the crack epidemic that happened to a lot of families, particular black families. That was my grandmother.
Wow.
And it destroyed my family lineage. I mean, from that generation too.
Of course.
Yeah, my mom never struggled with drugs, but it was something that resulted in my mom as a teenager being put into foster care.
But all these foundations that families are built on was just shaky. There wasn't a strong foundation for your mother, potentially for her parents and grandparents.
No.
And you came into this, it was already a wobbling ship, if you will.
Yeah. So
with people that probably meant well and just couldn't work against the obstacles that were there.
Yeah, and I think even too learning more about, because within the past year, I've been able to meet some of my biological family. I mean, during the pandemic, I buried my my maternal grandfather. He was young when he passed, and I only got to see him one time. There was a lot that was there, and hearing my mom's story, I began to, and we have our challenges still working through too.
Because you've stayed in contact with your bio mom, the one you speak of now, on and off, right? You guys have had somewhat of a relationship?
We do. We do have a relationship too. I love her, and
But later in life, you connected with her. Is that correct?
Was later in life too, and it was a process. And it took me to kind of, as I've matured, to understand what she was really up against too. I mean, she had similar experience that I had, being in residential facilities too.
Probably traumatized too, Antonio.
She was.
Honestly, she probably experienced a lot of
She was. Even talking to her about it, and how it still impacts her to this day. And so a lot of the things, how she was labeled as an unfit parent, was her responding back to, like, even let's just, I want to touch on something too. Some of these residential facilities are not safe environments. I'm gonna just be honest with you.
Are we going there?
Between some of the staff that that continue to abuse and manipulate. And that's kind of what happened with my mom when they found her unfit. She had a situation that required her to be physically aggressive. I mean, and I think it was at that moment they deemed her unsafe, and really was my mom fighting for her own safety and the safety of me. But they used that and said, "Oh, she's unfit to be a parent."
Because of the way she reacted, they just looked at that. They didn't look at the mitigating factors, probably.
It made her jump through a lot of different hoops, and
they figured she was aggressive when really she just...
Yeah. And so then you look at this family over here. Oh, they're middle class. Again, middle class. They're
married,
doing decently.
They must be better off.
They must be better off too. And they were the very same people that caused me the most trauma. And I'm going to say it just like that. They caused me a lot of trauma.
So you're getting it from the fact that you're having disruptions anyway. So that is traumatizing for young people, period, with or without abuse. Then you've got that abuse. You've got the disruption there. Then you go into all these different settings with different levels of potential, even just emotional neglect, which is there. And then some residential of it. You're just getting mired down with one thing after another. How are you sitting here? How are you sitting across from me?
Do you really want to know the answer to that?
Yeah, I do. My God.
Faith is very important to me. That's one thing I will say out of my experience. Faith has carried me, and through faith, for me to trust again, to realize that I don't believe anything in life just happens to you, just happens. Things happen, but they're part of your story, and I really think they're sent to make you stronger too. But I think, I've heard somebody say too, about your unique dispositions. Many times for people, some of their greatest place of trauma, hurt, becomes their greatest place of ministry, because nobody understands it the way that you understand it. Or in the words of Dr. Pratt, everybody's not going to love it the way you love it. Everybody's not going to understand it the way you understand it. And so I think I've been able to look at it and say, hey, this is part of my story. But here's the thing, and it also too is a chapter in my story. Keep on reading. And I think as we sit here today, my stories is still kind of unfolding. But
you're in charge a little more now. You're not a little person being shuffled along and treated a certain way. You are a man now, so when there is a chapter, you get to have some volition in it. You get some agency. As a little person, you didn't.
You did,
and you're taking advantage of this. You're taking your own life.
But it's also
in your own hands.
Yeah, it's also the challenge that's there too, though. Too, as you're trying to write the new stories, you still have the past chapters that you're reminded of too. And it does take a community. It takes my faith to be able to push past those past chapters and saying, hey, this story continues to get better and better, and don't allow those past chapters to dominate the rest of the chapters of your story.
So you have to work on it. It takes work, doesn't it? To not let those whispers, those yells follow you.
It does. But what I will say is that it's encouraging, though, because even today, I've just left church not too long ago, just what the pastor ministered on too. It was just so encouraging to just keep going, but not only to keep going, to thrive. And I am just not at a place to. I'm 29. I'll be 30 in less than a year next year. That next decade for me is about, when I say truly thriving, I'm here to thrive.
I believe
I'm forgetting. I want to say I'm forgetting because it's part of my story too.
Mm-hmm. It's still there, but you get to mold it.
Yeah, it's like it is what it is. How do I do with the time I have left too? And how do I find strength in my story and to encourage other people as they're going through their process, whether it be down to the people who've been affected by the same things I've been affected by, whether it be even just sitting down talking with you, because we have a relationship. I think that's one thing I want to say too. We meet up very often. You have become family to me.
Oh, you are family. I don't know if I'm your family, but you're our family.
You are.
I just saw my brothers. I'm going to see Antonio.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. I know your family well.
They like you better than me.
Oh, come on now. This might be funny, and I hope I don't offend anybody when I say this too.
I hope you do. Let's do it.
I called somebody. I said, that's my white aunt. That's what I tell people too. She is my aunt. And I said, I would have never known. And that's something I don't know if I ever told you.
We're in a mixed family, and it's beautiful.
We are. I don't think I've ever said this to you personally, but I want to thank you too, because I didn't expect us to continue to have a relationship outside. I mean, you came to my college graduation.
So good. This is college graduation. Insane.
And we talked still during that time period. I mean, you still would, even while I was in college, making time to come down to see me, interact with me. Anytime there's a holiday or anything, you always make sure I'm extending an invite and that I can come to. I think every year you get me something for Christmas. I mean, and what I like about it is that it's genuine. I think that's the biggest thing too, because part of on this journey you will find out too, there are a lot of people out here, they're trying to do their, I don't know, I want to say stroke their moral ego. Like, oh, I came and I helped that poor little child. I helped that, oh, he's been impacted. You know, oh, it's almost like a sense of pity. I don't, many of us, want that. I don't need pity. And I want to just say something for the youth, even age out of foster care. We don't need pity. And one thing I will say about our experiences too, we can become very good at reading people. And you can tell the people who are just there to get a photo op or to stroke their moral ego or to feel like they did something good today. Yeah.
And I want to go back for a second and catch up with that. But you're also the kind of person someone would want to hang out with. And I'm not trying to be all like, oh, we back at you. But really, like, you created out of all that stuff that you've been sharing, you created a persona, a person that is interesting and fun to talk to. And so people gravitate to you. And you did that and created that somewhere in all that other muck you were in. So you have to give yourself credit that people wanted to be in your world. It's not just because they were diving down to help. You were someone they wanted to be around.
That's interesting, because I don't... And it could be because I will say, from what I've been told, I am a very hard critic of myself too. Yeah. I don't see it that way. If anything, I think that I'm a quite challenging individual. I think that, I don't typically go with the status quo.
But that's interesting.
I think I can be like kind of jarring sometimes too.
But that doesn't make you not someone people want to be around.
That's what I'm learning, because even too, I will say, I don't think it was this year, but the year before that, I had my birthday. And one of the most heartfelt things was I had a lot of people, even people reaching out to me who I didn't even think would know when my birthday was too.
Yeah.
They were sending texts or giving me cards, and they were just talking about how much of an amazing friend I was. And it wasn't just some generic, like, hey, you're just this great person. I mean, they were giving me countless examples, and and what I saw was just a constant theme. Like, it was just like, man, like, you're dependable. It just kind of shocked me. It made me feel amazing. It was like better, it was better than you even... anything. I mean, even down to somebody buying me something or something like that. It was heartfelt, because I do think that I am pretty hard on myself.
Like, you probably still have a narrative or a voice in your head that forgets that you have that value. And so hopefully moments like this, and when these people are texting you, you can store that and realize, oh yeah, I did build a pretty decent human here.
I want to be your friend. Like, I'm grateful to be your friend, especially because
you're not hard to like.
But again, let's go back to when I think about foster care. When you keep getting, I sallied over, I would say it's between 10 to 15 placements. When you keep getting basically shoved around, or a family says they don't want you anymore, they disrupt you. I think one of the biggest things is like, man, what's wrong with me?
How do you not internalize that?
What's wrong with me that, people can't love me unconditionally? What's wrong with me that what's so bad about me that even before I met my biological mother, I mean, it was time that didn't want me. Why? I remember just asking me sometimes nights crying as a kid to God, like, yo, why did I have to grow up this way? And it also doesn't help too. I had many people, even during my early, I think, adult years, when I could understand me, people would kind of question that.
Question what?
Me being a foster youth.
Shush. That wasn't you. It's my screen.
Gotcha. Me being a foster youth, even down to whether it be me trying to date certain people, and again, their parents, oh, he's a foster kid, or people start, even people to me, I don't know how my family's gonna feel about that. And it kind of and the emotions I felt, like, even trying to, like, let me prove to this person or this person's family, like, I'm a great guy, regardless of where I come from.
Right.
Because I think the notion
Shouldn't
is that,
matter.
if you grew up with two parents and all this happened, that means, that's going to be a better candidate. And I will say, from what I've learned, sometimes they are just as messed up, if not worse.
We all have stuff.
And that's the part right there. We all do.
You were built because of what happened to you, and this isn't to take anything away from your path or journey. You were built stronger. You had to be. Your resilience, your tenacity. Because I wouldn't be here sitting here today. Like, what you can withstand versus other people is probably profound. And you shouldn't have had to. But because you did, now you're stronger. Because you're here. Mm-hmm. And people to trust that they can be that little boy at 8, 10, 12, whatever, and get here and trust that they can build a strong self. Mm-hmm. But you got to work on it. There's a voice. There's a narrative sometimes.
Yeah, and I think that voice has to live outside you. Like, there's a part of you, it's deeper than even you. That's one of the biggest things, I think, when you start talking to people. Again, how do we create programming? How do we help youth that come from your background? Mm-hmm. How did you make it out too? And sometimes it's a challenging question because I have to reflect. And even when I think about me being even in my, which I do want to get into my experience with my foster/adopted family, my first basically 10 years of life.
Absolutely.
But basically what I'm saying is that you have to, it was deeper even then too, because I remember being just a young child and always having this. And I think that was some of the challenges we had in the home. Resilient spirit for me to push against.
You felt like you had to be oppositional in order to protect yourself. Because there were times where you would make a stand, and we talk about it, and I'd be like, I get it. I understood where you're coming from. And
but they label you. You're oppositional defiant. Like, let's go through some of the things. I was looking back in my chart about it too. They label you as that too. And again, he's, emotionally disturbed and he has all these problems and, he needs to be drugged up on medication. He needs an IEP. He needs all these things. And my thing was this too. Let somebody be, let me get proper English. Let someone abuse you, beat you, lock you in a bedroom, not feed you. Mm-hmm. Emotionally call you out of your name. Let them duct tape you while you're naked and just different things that kind of happen. And let me see how normal you are. And
again,
that was some of my
Was
experience.
the core challenge. It wasn't that you were built bad or wrong, you had traumas that weren't given proper care.
It was, and and part of it because I couldn't even speak out against it too. That's another thing for victims. When I went back into foster care and quote unquote I was safer, still wasn't safe because still trying to work it as a child. Yeah. But even desiring and longing to go back because it's the only family I knew. Like
that's something solid there.
Yeah, that's a crazy concept. So now as an adult, I'm able to look back on that too. When you hear victims and stories like that, why would they want to go back to their abuser? It's like, this is all I know.
And they might have at times been kind. They might have fed you. They might have met your basic needs, which can happen along with abuse.
Yes.
And that's confusing for a young person.
It is.
You're going to read me a story potentially. You're going to give me cereal, but then you're going to be this so cruel to me too. Mm-hmm. Convoluted. So somewhere in this whole path, you had to do some work on this. And whether that was in your group work, your therapy work, your family work, somewhere, little by little, you must have worked on the trauma.
Yes.
Maybe if it was behind the scenes, maybe if it happened because life got different, but you had to have somehow come out of it.
Well, I think part of me having to work on some of the trauma was even too, and I think our first encounter when I was in the residential treatment, and I think my first time, I can't remember you were there the first time. Something tells me you were, but when I was on residential treatment and us having
was
to
that
go
Mr. Tim's group or a different group?
That was during that time period. So hard for me to know because I think I went 1 year and then I went back probably like not too long. I think within my first year being back in the foster care because I was just going through.
It was
homes
such a tight
like crazy.
window.
And I mean, they were just like,
I met you again at 16. So we started together when you were little.
But that was even then, that was back at 16. I was in high school. That's when I lived with Mama Cross.
Yes.
That was after my last time I had got out of residential treatment. Mm-hmm. That had happened. Yeah.
But you were saying when you were there back then, you feel like you started. Maybe
I think the process started because again, you go through these classes, then there's a lot of what we call PH. Even I don't even remember that stand for.
IHP, yeah, the partial hospitalization program, and then you.
Oh, that's what they call that too. I never knew.
I was your PHP group leader.
You were.
Point. Yes, I'm sure.
And so having to go through that too, I think even to my last time in a residential treatment, I think it was like 14, 15. But even into going through the group work, and I will even credit, again, there was some bad staff there, but there was some good staff. And I think about one particular person was Mr. I'm gonna say his name just in case I never get out there, Mr. Lavelle at Cleveland Christian Home. I remember
that name for some reason.
Yeah,
I feel like I talked to that. But anyways, I'm interrupting you. But
yeah, I
Mr.
ended up
Lavelle.
having an altercation, and long story short, I don't know if I just got done with a restraint, but I was bawling, crying, so upset. And he kind of like told everybody, even said, everybody get away from, let me talk to him. He kind of pulled me aside and he basically was like, hey, you can make something of your life too. And part of what he's talking about, he said, dude, I'm hearing the teachers talking about how smart you are. You really have a chance to make somebody's life like something a lot of these kids don't. And kind of like, and he said something to me that sticks with me to this day. He said, whenever your emotions are out of control, you're out of control. And learning how to take charge of your emotions, and something there kind of just stuck with me. When I got out of there too, I no longer went back into residential treatment. I know,
you were able to stick it.
And even too, after I left that, I think that was the last residential treatment facility I was in.
Mm-hmm.
I stayed longer in my placement, so I went through a placement for 2 years, and I went through another one for 2 years. And which is was good for me because I told you before was average before it was like 5 or 6 months.
So discombobulated. You
So
can't
for
get your
me
education. You can't do anything.
And that's one of the biggest challenges we talk about youth aging out of foster care was that is
education. And let me go back for a second too. Is you were a bright young student, but you're also unique. There was something special about you. I was saying that to you in the hallway because when you were in my groups, I remember thinking, "Oh, thank goodness Antonio's here," because you were the kid that was aware. No matter what was going on, you'd have your eyes open. You would offer, "Oh, let me get that. Let me help." Even in all this stuff that was going on. You did
I don't remember that, but wow.
Oh, you were the most helpful because
Yeah,
I mean that sometimes that class was lit. I was sitting
No,
there.
it was
six
crazy
boys
in
and
there.
some were angry. It was like 11 to 17 or something. The ages. I think you were one of the younger, but you were this like solidifying force, or not even solidifying, like a calming force in the middle of all that. Unless somebody messed with you, then you could get a little salty. But in general, you were steady and aware and kind.
Yeah.
And through all of that, somehow you stood out. So it wasn't just your education brain or your academic brain. You had something unique about you.
But part of what that kind of came from, and I think that's one thing I can credit my adopted family for, is that my foundational years of education was something that was highly stressed.
Yeah.
And so me being there, I remember being able to sit at the table, and even so much so, I remember being crying as a kid too, because I was considered the gifted kid in the household. But I remember times me not being allowed to play, but you're going to sit here and do this work and continue to do even extra work because there was just something that was seen in me. My academic aptitude was just there.
Yeah. So they honed it, maybe not in the right way, but you walked away with at least.
Because I remember one time even getting a whooping because was it a C? And my only time really getting a C was because they knew that my ability to excel was there too. Yeah. But here's the thing that kind of overshadowed that was my behavior problems too, because at one point I tested gifted.
Yeah. But
then I had the challenges of your behavior that kind of interrupted that to where I'm having to be put in some emotionally disturbed classes and having sitting there, and
the ADHD component too, because when you have a trauma brain, it's distracted half the time. It can't do its linear work. That gets in the
that
way,
was a big thing too. And I think even too now some of that too still affecting me as in adulthood too. But I'm learning to kind of really get that under control and manage that too. But it's kind of even started affecting me in college, and that's how I know it's trauma induced too. Because I would even say during going to my sophomore year of college, there was a shift that kind of happened academically. Yeah. And I also looked at academics because you hear all these horror stories about youth aging out of foster care. And, just the statistics of homelessness, us not finishing. I mean, it might be even less than 30% they even finish high school.
It's pretty low.
It's low.
For aging out, and this means aging out again, not finding a forever home.
Yes.
Being in foster care when you turn 18.
Yeah. And so, and me kind of getting reacquainted like during that time period with my biological family too, I had a shift, and it was like the first time in my life where I was hitting a barrier where I was studying, but I just couldn't get past. I wasn't retaining information, and it put me in a very vulnerable emotional place too, because I started performing like I had like a 3.8 probably prior to that too. My GPA dropped, That's something I would say about my college
Which
experience,
isn't uncommon for a college sophomore in general to have to suffer,
Really?
struggle through it. But in your case, again, all those other things were impacting.
And I'm like, what the heck is going on with me too? But I think during that time period, and I can remember, there were a series of things that had kind of occurred that started to bring up some more emotional things I had kind of buried.
Ooh.
And that's another thing I will talk about in this podcast. Going through going through therapy as a child, but then trying to go back as a young adult. And even some of my apprehensions about going back, because it's like, I did all that as a kid because I was required to go.
Yeah,
and it didn't change my reality. And I think that was the biggest thing I realized I was thinking about therapy. I was like, you can't take away what has happened to me. So why am I going here and talking to you about it?
Yeah, why are we bringing that up?
Like, how's this going to help me? And what I will say, what I have learned is that not only does therapy help you unpack things, it also helps you identify your triggers and then to come up with different plans on how to combat that. So there's certain things that I can do now where I kind of tell I'm off base, and how do I bring myself back in?
How do you regulate?
That would be, I guess, the right term for it.
Or off base work too, but
yeah. And so that's what it did too. And I have to thank my community too about people kind of encourage me, because I was kind of reluctant. I'm like, I've been there, done that, and the reality is I'm still sitting here with this pain. And I think particularly I can remember one thing was watching a movie, I think Antowne Fisher. And I think watching that movie
which was shot in Cleveland, right?
It was. He's from Cleveland, too. His story is we have a lot of similarities. Even when I think about his adoptive mother and how evil she was, that gives you not his adoptive, his foster mom.
Yeah.
But there were so many things about his story that encouraged me. Even I think particularly in one scene where he goes back as an adult and he's trying to locate his biological family, which kind of reminds my story a little bit too. And he says, you tried to break me. He said, it's my time now. And that's how I feel now too. You tried to break me, but now it's my time. And you're going to listen to me today. And part of what I think my story and where I'm at today too is I'm not necessarily fighting for people to listen to me. It's more so for me to listen to myself and say, hey, this is what happened, but this does not define you. Keep pushing, progress. Yes, you made some mistakes, whether it be with certain relationships, whether it be with certain just decisions or academically, because that's a whole different conversation too, how you start to assign worth and value to yourself based upon accomplishments, whether it be academic accomplishments, whether it be relational accomplishment, certain things like financial accomplishment too.
It's tempting to qualify yourself that way.
It is, because I think most of society does that.
It does.
And the reality of it is too, it's still, there's an inner part of you, I like to say your soul too, that will never feel satisfied or fulfilled through that. And so I no longer use that as a metric to assign value to myself.
Good.
And so
Nor should anyone.
No, anyone shouldn't.
Great point. But it took you probably a little bit longer because you didn't have some of the, I guess, the fibers in you that other people do from a family setting or different settings to to value themselves. You were used to using externals. And now you're learning, I assume, the internal.
Yeah, even so much too, I think, there's a lot there too.
You had some groups. I want to make sure we don't forget these too along the way. So you mentioned the community, started with that. You had your the individuals at the scholarship fund through Cleveland State, and then you had a group of individuals that mentored you as part of that program, right? There was like
it was a separate entity, I think, that came.
It was like a round table kind of thing.
It's called Community of Hope, and we
was Open Table,
Community of Hope too. That program is still around too. Even the founder of that too, she had passed.
Okay,
Amber Donovan. I do want to take a moment to just thank the work that she,
Amber Donovan,
had contributed to that space and even getting that started.
Because that was people from different backgrounds that were there sort of to touch base with you if you needed to mentor.
Yeah, the idea is that you create a table. So you get a group of adults. Many of them, I think most of my table were, basically of adults. Many of them more seasoned in life too. And so if they are their free will, I think many of them told me, some of them saw in the paper ad too, they get specific training. But the idea was that, okay, you train them, they get to learn, about this young individual. They're going to basically become part of a community. Mm-hmm. And they are there to help provide you and provide support for you.
And help you kind of transition
community,
into
but it's the idea of community. Yes. And like you kind of, it's different areas of your life too. So it's just trying to create a sense of community. So it's more than, and I will say some people were there because they had their own predetermined way of how they thought they were going to come in and help too. And they fell off because, again, I think initially, and I even see that's another thing. I talked to some of them now. They're like, yeah, when you first came in, you kind of hostile. They had their own view of me. And maybe some of those things are true.
Maybe you were a little bit.
And
the world was not
was.
nice to you. Of course you were a little bit like, prove me before you get in the space.
Mm-hmm. And when you consider my background, when you see some of my background, it makes sense too. But some of them, they are still around and they have become, they are family to me. And I think one thing that's about
is that where Chad came from, or was he a totally separate thing?
The Raymond family too, they came through church. So that's another
church.
Set of community.
Okay, because I'm like, you somehow found a way to connect yourself with like 4 communities in the world. Like to your point, you did that. You said yes. You met people.
Here's what
I
would say. That was my faith as a believer, because even being in that space too, and I think about even the Raymond family, I never intended for that to pan out the way that it did.
They were like an adoptive family in a way to you.
They
right?
are, and they still are.
They are so wonderful.
They still are.
Yeah. And that was the pastor at the church. Is that correct?
No, he was one of the deacons, and he turned elder at the church too. And it came out of me serving in young adult ministry. And I think that's the thing about community. When you're in community of people too, you start to learn things about them. Mm-hmm. And really, I would say I was very opposite. Even too, he's a physician. I was pre-med in undergrad too, and I'm still working towards that goal right now. It's been an uphill battle. I'm just now getting my footing where it's like I can do this and I'm going to do this too. I think I'm in a very good emotional space to do it.
But you've also had jobs since then in that area doing what a lot of people aren't doing at your age. I want to say that even though you didn't decide exactly what medical path, you are doing very admirable work and full-time work.
Yeah, working in clinical research too. And
yeah, just because you didn't decide what the next step is, you are
and I
really
know there's supposed to be
a
segue point in between there for me to get relevant experience, and it has opened me up. I think that's another thing. Again, you can kind of talk about be open to the journey. I think life, I always say this about life too, and that's why they say hindsight is 20/20. I did not expect to get the experience I'm getting out of my vocation I'm working into. It has opened me up into an entire industry, important work. Because when I think about clinical research, just really quick, that work, people don't understand too. When you think about any type of medical innovation, whether it be new drugs that hit the market, pharmaceutical drugs hit the market, medical devices, it all comes by way of clinical research. My manager, she likes to call it, we are the stepchild of medicine.
Yeah. And that's what you're doing, right? This is your role.
And so, being there and being able to work directly with patients, and being able to provide support, and almost even that, I become part of their family. Because many of these patients too, I see them for years. You hear stories where you're invited to some of their weddings. Even one patient I can think about too. She's a retired social worker.
Yeah.
And
you met plenty of them in your life.
And just us spending so much time together. Somebody sees something professional. You should just learn a lot about yourself. Tell me about your story. Yeah. And even how encouraging it is for her, because she's like, I retired from this work, and she looked at me like,
how'd you get
you doing pretty, like, wow. Like,
that's why I wanted to make sure you gave yourself enough credit. You're like, I'm figuring it out. Plenty of people in their 20s don't know what path they want. You are on a path, and you are in a beautiful spot, even if you chose to stay here. Yeah. You have far exceeded what many people had expected. But you were talking, I interrupted you because I got excited, but Chad and his family, that was you being open in the community to your faith. I want to go
back to
and to the Raymond family, because they've been a unique impact in your life too.
And because part of it too, he's he works in healthcare, and I'll just say he's a physician. And originally, I did not want to disclose, because again, I was in college and still going to church and serving in youth ministry or young adult ministry.
Giving back, by the way. Giving back already, you were.
Yeah, but that's part of what our faith believes too, like a sense of community, connecting. It's all a part of our spiritual development. I did not expect that relationship to turn into the way that it did, because I wasn't really looking for that. I was just looking to come and serve, be a part of the community. And it was kind of like, dude, why didn't you tell me? That's something you learn kind of too. I don't want to bother anybody. That was kind of my mentality. And I still kind of have some of that mentality too about certain
Don't make too
things
much
too.
noise.
Not really wanting to bother people. But, which I think, again, especially on the journey I'm trying to do academically, you need people to advocate for you and you need people there. So you kind of need to learning how to advocate for yourself in that particular space. And some space I was really great at advocating for myself. And that space I really wasn't. He was like, man, why didn't you tell me you were trying to be a physician, or something like that? Because even now, to whether it be shadowing, letters of recommendation, I can think about just other ways where.
And you can let people help you, right? I bet at some point you realize it's okay to let someone
down
help
to
you.
holidays, that family making sure I always have a place to come to.
Yes. They held your graduation party, didn't they? Weren't they the
did.
host of your graduation
they hosted
party?
my graduation party and played a control.
I knew you longer. Just saying, I knew him longer.
Yeah. I can even think about too, and they probably won't, because they're so humble and they want to see, but even financially contributing when I didn't even ask. But that's the key word too. But them seeing a need there and kind of like even too down to me, helping me get my first car. There's another thing about aging out of foster care too. You don't have that too, and you don't even learn how to drive. I didn't learn how to drive till I was in college.
I didn't even think of that. Yeah, who's going to take you out for your 50 hours of driving? And who's going to co-sign your loans?
Exactly. And so that was some challenge of aging out of foster care. A lot of different things that typically, quote unquote, normal children have, I didn't have.
Or to your point earlier, a holiday home, a place to go on a holiday. Even if they gave you a home through Cleveland State for those 4 years, a home isn't a place you sit alone with on Christmas. So thank God you found these communities, but how many people don't?
It seems like a lot of people don't, from what I'm hearing.
I mean, yes, you forged your past. Yes, you're unique and special, but there's also faith and grace somewhere came in there for you too. So these are people like Chad and his family were able to help you with some of those milestones.
Yeah, and just genuinely just doing it. I couldn't have calculated, or I didn't anticipate them being there. I didn't anticipate for that relationship to morph into what it has been. And even too, I think this podcast is just a reminder to continue to cultivate that relationship. And I'm just grateful. I think that's the biggest thing, beyond just grateful. Because I think some of the challenges that I had, I think even aging out, even I would say there was another phase I went through, even finishing college, and like, man, I don't have a job.
You probably didn't
get my financial situation, credit situation. Like, where am I going to stay at? Like, fear of homelessness. That's the thing. Again, you get the college degree, you go, like, what am I about to do out here? How is this going to work out? Even so much so, it was so bad, keeping me up at night. Anxiety.
Because if you drop the ball, you don't have anywhere. You do have places to run, but it's not the same.
You bring up a good point, because that was the thought that dominated the back of my mind too. I had to figure this out. I don't have anybody I can call. I don't have mom and dad. Hey, this and this is going on.
That's that unconditional.
Yes, I need this type of financial support. And even too, I still don't ask for stuff like that. To be honest, I still have the mentality, you need to figure it out. You're a grown man. Nobody's going to look at you and say, hey, people are expecting you to have it figured out. And I think that's the biggest thing that's a challenge about.
Such a high standard.
Even too, like trying to, as somebody who's, I want to go to medical school, it's trying to get there too, is that, hey, I know when you look at this, you look at my grades or certain things too, it's like, man, what's wrong with this kid? Or what happened here? And is he up to snuff for this and this too? The reality is there's a lot more to that story than just grades, because the reality of it is too, academically, for the most, I've excelled beyond barriers too, and I continue to do. It's not a learning issue or aptitude too. I think I've taken this time to really deal with the emotional things.
Yeah.
And
especially before you start a family, because I know you want to be a family person.
Yeah, I want to get married, and I want to have a family, and wife, and children too. And that's the biggest thing. I realize the work that I do today, even again, that kind of it has impacted my dating as a young adult too.
Yeah.
And so much so too, I've taken the last couple of years to where just to be, when I'm single, and just really work through those things too, because basically what I tell myself when I start my family, to me, it's like it's a fresh start for me.
Yeah.
My kids are not going to go through the same things that I went through. even down to being very particular about the partner I have too, that it's gonna be a different story.
Yeah. And you have agency there. You have control there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do, and I haven't talked to you about this in a while, do you do therapy now? What are you doing now to ensure you can stay on track? Or is it more an internal work you do?
It's internal, but I did during the pandemic. I went back and I went because it's post kind of finishing college.
Yeah.
I was going through a couple of years, like those last couple of years of college, just kind of really scraping my way through.
Yeah.
I was just trying to finish. Because it was just like a lot of emotion. It's just like between interacting with my biological family and getting back acquainted with them, some other relationship stuff too.
Financial insecurity, fears, like all those big fears.
And making some financial mistakes. If I'm being honest and transparent with you, and credit mistake.
Who doesn't in college? Hello.
And kind of sitting with that. And I think the biggest thing I was kind of struggling with was like, how do I move past this too? Like it was tough.
Yeah.
And
so you did go back and kind of get a little more support so that you weren't on your own that way. For therapy, like therapy support.
Yeah, but that was, to be honest, my community that was kind of encouraging me to do it too. Hey, you don't seem like yourself, man. What's going on?
Yeah.
And I was just break down because I did not know what was going on. It was like I would try. It's almost like I feel like it's like getting up in the run too and just hitting a wall. And I was trying to muscle my way through, like literally muscle my way through. And it was just not working. But I think the thing about that was that it had worked previously. I was able, even as a child, going through college, I'm gonna just get through college. I was able to put that stuff in the back. It's almost like I forgot about it. I don't know if there's a clinical.
You compartmentalized it a little bit and just kept rolling.
And for some reason, it was the first time in my life where, again, it started affecting me academically.
Maybe the bio family stirring around in there.
It was that too. And I think watching that movie, it was a series of different things that kind of like triggers. And to the point, I'm having nightmares. I can't sleep. It was like.
It pulled
what I'm like, what is going on? This is a young adult. What is going on right now?
And trauma, they say that the body keeps score, meaning the body holds the trauma somewhere. And you probably had some of it you just didn't have enough time to really work through.
Yeah, and I didn't know what to do. I honestly didn't. Like, I'm just fighting my way through, and it's like, and it had worked previously. I'm like, what is going on? Like, why can't I get past this?
Yeah.
To the point where I think there were certain people that I was just like, I think relation like just bleeding on, and not intentionally, but just like, what the heck is going on right now? And that wasn't my heart. I think when I think about to me, I said, I'm not a callous person. I'm not a mean person.
No.
I'm not a person that's not me. But I realized too, if you don't deal with the things you need to deal with too, it's bound to happen. And so I think, but there were certain friends who were like, hey, you need to go see somebody.
Your community, again, supporting you.
Yeah, and so I did. And I think when I went in for the intake to do the whole evaluations, when they kind of came back with some tough stuff, I was like, yeah, you struggle with severe anxiety. And my thing was this. I said, don't anybody have some level of anxiety? I mean.
Yes.
Like, don't they? I'm like, so what do you, like, I didn't look at like, no, yours is, I just truthfully answered. I'm even them diagnosed with depression. I'm thinking like, what do you mean? Because I wasn't sitting. I mean, every now and then cry, but I'm not sitting here crying. Like, what you think depression? Like doesn't.
Right.
And I had no idea.
That sleep stuff alone.
Sleep. I mean, even just the a loss of interest, the irritability, like, and I was impacting how I kind of showed up in different spaces of my life.
So it's not linear. It's not like you said, I got this figured out. I'm 19. I'm in college. Like all of us, and particularly for you, it's going to swell. There's going to be moments where you have to work harder. Things are going to surface, but it sounds like you react to them and you do something about it. Mm-hmm. How are you today? How do you feel about your
I'm good. That was kind of what the sermon was today at church. I mean, it was basically keeping your hand to the plow. And it says that you are unfit for the
Mahalia
kingdom.
Jackson, when she sings that song, sorry,
you are unfit for the kingdom if you continue. Basically, if you continue to kind of keep looking, I'm paraphrasing, looking backwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, keep your hand on the plow.
On the plow and looking forward. And tell me how, I'm going to say my favorite, but Jesus has set his eyes on Jerusalem because we're going into Easter.
Yeah.
And basically them kind of dealing with that too, but learn you can't keep looking back on what's happened here too for you to move forward. And even how he defined what the kingdom was too. He said the kingdom is what we define as the world as happiness. And it's the peace, it's the joy, and many times we can't get to where we're trying to get to in life because we're so busy looking back on what happened. And I think that's I'm taking away today too. And even as I transition to that, I don't forget it, but I ain't really spent a whole lot of time looking back on it because I can't change it.
I don't get that sense from you at all. As a matter of fact, having this conversation I think is important, but it's
I
not
do.
like
It's in the back of my mind.
It's
I
there
think
somewhere.
and I have to kind of. It's work to kind of.
It's deliberate. You have to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned that beautiful sermon. You were inspired because you were open to be inspired. I keep going back to how you are actively part of your process. If you're not open and you're not aware and allowing yourself to be touched, that sermon wouldn't have meant anything.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like in your life, you walk out there and you allow the world to teach you, to guide you, to communicate with you.
Yeah,
but
and
people heard that sermon that may not have been affected like you were.
Mm-hmm.
That's that silly.
Okay. But even with that, I would say as far as that too, but that's also the faith thing. I said one thing that my adopted family did give me was that. I mean, we kind of grew up. I mean, it was a challenging point in my faith too, because it's like same people, you know, you a deacon, we're going to church. I'm like, y'all causing the greatest deal of pain, and y'all are, it's hypocrisy.
Hypocrisy.
You live in one way, and it's telling me that you know, and almost punishing me for doing these things, but you're doing the same exact thing, if not worse. Yeah. But I had to kind of grow up, and even there was another level of my area in my life where I had to kind of, I don't want to say mature, but being able to look past it.
Yeah.
Like this is what it's just the fault of man. I'm like, we all have some level of where we just do. We believe my faith, you know, we do wrong. You know?
Yeah. I love what you're saying because it makes me think that you went back into these experiences and you chose what to take with you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't take, like it's there. You don't take the abuse with you. You take, I found God there. I found my community. I found education there.
But say, yeah,
you chose what to take. And yes, the other stuff, it's there.
Can we go back and talk about that experience though, like living there too?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Like being there too, like there was a lot of abuse that happened. Yeah. I mean, physical abuse. I mean, I can think about stories of just being beat.
And you were how old at this time? Was this 0 to 5?
It went from the time I was
7?
like, all up to 10. I mean, I was still going to Beachville for counseling. I mean, they're drugging me up. I mean, they're labeling me opposition to defiant, ADHD.
And this was still in your adoptive home?
Yes. I was talking about this is pre the age of 10. I mean, but all throughout those years, I'm still going to Beachbrook for counseling, seeing a psychiatrist. And I don't know what's wrong with this because I'm
Did
being
they know? Did anyone
school.
Identify at the time that you were being abused emotionally and physically?
Heck yeah.
Okay, good, because you scared me that it was never identified.
It was, but the thing about it is, he's a liar. You know, being labeled as a liar. You can't believe anything that he says. Even so much so, like I said, it was 4 of us that was adopted. If I can just be honest, like the out of the 4 kids, I was the only one that went back into care. My adopted father, there was an incident that happened. A long story short, I sat outside all night. He got up, packed everything I had in a trash bag, and dropped me down on East 40th, the Children and Family Service. I can't do it anymore, too. Because it was getting to a point where, and it's where I said, from that resilient experience, you're not going to continue to put your hands on me and mistreat me.
Like that's how you were responding.
If I had to
no
die
more.
in here, and I meant that, I was getting at that age where I was going to stand up for myself. You're not going to continue to mistreat me.
Good for you. So you stood outside in that, whatever it was, freezing cold, whatever, you said no more.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I'll get to like kind of what happened that night because I remember it. But one of the biggest things we kind of dealt with, I mean, even fuel insecurity. And to me, I never felt like we didn't have food because, again, they would put locks on the refrigerator, there would be food in the house. They would be eating. I mean, even to so much, I remember, you know.
Well, that explains your hoarding, by the way, because you grew up with locks on the food. Yeah.
Even like being locked in a bedroom, me and my adopted brother, I mean, naked, I mean, a bucket to use the bathroom in and seeing maggots in your own feces. Trying to claw your way out of, like, we broke a window, and I remember being so thirsty and, like, having to drink rainwater off a styrofoam plate that was left over, you know. There used to be this ladder we had in there to put on the side of the house, too, and my brother trying to get out. And I think the neighbor had, like, a crab apple tree and us trying to eat. I mean, there were so many different things. I remember, you know, and some people, again, I also want to set the context, especially for African-American families too, because we kind of, I mean, even comedians make light of some of this stuff too. Again, if you want to get your kids in order, beat them. We grew up with that hard, and people say, again, it's post-traumatic slave syndrome and that stuff too.
And it's not effective. We know better now.
It wasn't, and that was what happened to me. It made me harder, and it started to manifest the behavior problems in school. I was so angry because I didn't understand. And to me, I will be honest, there wasn't a lot of love in that household. I mean,
It didn't make logical sense to you. You were so bright. And you're like, how could this happen and this at the same time?
I mean, going to school marks me, but even you said, did people know about it? I said, Children and Family Services came out so many times. You know how many runaway reports we would run away from home? I remember.
But yet, well, at the time and at any time and in our current condition, there's not a lot of places for you to go, sometimes that are even better. So they'll try really hard to keep a child in a home, sometimes even when they shouldn't be.
Yeah, I mean, us running away.
It's not okay, but...
Yeah, I remember one time, too. This made me think about me. I had even been put into in psychiatric hospitals, man. I would almost, I'm going to be honest, like lie about me wanting to kill myself, because to find safety. I remember one particular time, just tired of being beat. I mean, I had kind of climbed out of a window. I was naked, because part of what they would do to prevent me from running was, they duct tape me, but they would take my clothes.
Yeah.
So I would just be naked in the home. And one time...
humiliating.
Yeah. One time the bedroom that we had, the boys' bedroom, me and my brother, I climbed out on a window, was on the roof, sitting there. And the police department, everything had to come out, and the fire department to get me off the roof because I was shaking in just fear. Because they started, deadbolting the doors. So you need a key to get in and out of the house.
Which is a safety issue.
It is, because what if the house catch on fire? It was so bad. Anytime I heard a belt or I took off running. That's how it was excessive, because anytime I heard a belt, I could hear anything that sounded like it.
You knew you were gonna get hit.
You take off running, and so.
And I'm so sorry that happened to you. That's such a, we're talking about all this stuff and how you've moved on, but just to have to experience that is just
the emotional abuse that was experienced by my adoptive mother. Me going, you're taking me to these appointments to get help from people, but we're not telling the truth. And so you look at, and even down to the police officers or social workers saying, well, they are allowed to physically discipline you. I get that too, but there's a level between physical abuse and you take it to, or physical discipline and abuse. It was excessive. To the point where, whelps, I needed stitches. I still have marks to this day on my body.
None of that's acceptable. I'm not sure who said it.
You can never say that that's acceptable for a child. And you start to wonder why I have the behavior issues that I have.
Of course.
That's what it was, because even as I started to get back into foster care, I did start to get better. I started getting to the point where I didn't need as much medication. It was so bad.
Yeah.
I would be literally drugged up till I was drooling on myself. And even when the medication was too strong, I remember one time I don't know how you would clinically, the definition, classify what I experienced.
Okay.
I remember one year during Thanksgiving, having to be rushed to the emergency room because my tongue had swelled up. My head had turned way, but it was progressive. Like the symptoms.
Oh, of the medication
Yes, and
impact?
she always said, he's lying. He's lying. It wasn't today. It got so bad that I had to be rushed to the emergency room.
When it was obvious you weren't lying, you had a physical.
But it's always, he's lying. He's this and this too, telling the social workers too. So again.
How do we protect kids though? How do we help for the kids that are out there? Like, what does the system need to do to make sure your story doesn't keep repeating? What do you think was missing?
That is a big question to me, and I still have not quite figured it out. Because
I think we ask better questions now, by the way. We do know how to look at abuse differently now. That was 20 some years ago. Not that that's an excuse. I think our abuse criteria has changed. Is that enough? Like, how do we listen to a young person who might lie in some situations?
Because that's the reality too. There are some who do.
Of course, you're a child. That's what children do.
I remember, like prime example. I remember one year. You know how you go on holiday breaks when you're in school.
Yeah.
And me and my adopted brother, we sitting there leaving school, and we like, man, I think it was him. He finally ended up saying something. We can't sit in this room, this locked bedroom, only eating every couple of days through winter break. And he ended up saying something. And so, the school having a report, they ended up taking us out of the home. Yeah. Ended up placing with us with a family friend. By the time Children and Family Services went out to the house, they had stripped up all the carpet that was in the room, took the lock off the door, put beds in, because we had no beds.
Oh, so they changed the story.
They changed it. And I said, hey, see, you can see where the lock was here too. I remember one time running away, and my brother even saying we ran away. It was like telling the cops, y'all go up there right now, y'all will see a lock on the door, but they never went up there to check.
You almost need like an inside person who's like, okay, here's what we see. We took a photo. Here's the reality, but not everyone, hopefully, is going to be as sinister and conniving as they were to hide their story.
They were masterminds. You talking about, so then you talk about during your foundational years as a kid, trust. I don't trust anybody. Even as I went back into foster care, it's a unique experience. even parents that, because even I was talking about my foster care experience, but let me finish just with the adoptive family.
Yeah.
But that was the biggest thing, like all that happened too. Even so much so, like it was just bad. When I think about it, I even look at myself like, how are you standing here today?
Right.
Even I think about too, like even so much so recently, I've been contemplating like getting rid of my name. Because the
Because
name
it's
that I
their name,
commonly,
right?
the name down to my full exact first name, middle name, that's not the name my biological mother gave me.
Interesting.
But even how they manipulated my adopted mother, manipulated my mother she was a young adult. Say, oh yeah, aren't you tired of going back and forth to court? Don't you just want to, just sign over custody to us? He'll still be your son. You can still call. You can still come and visit him. She signed that stuff over after years of going back and forth too. My mom said I would call, man, oh, he's at school right now. And they would block. She could never get through. And it hurt her for years. Because now I have 4 sisters and a younger brother, 5-year brother. I have young siblings, all who stayed with my biological mother. And now I'm trying to show up and be there for them and work through those things too. But yeah, it was, and I'm just giving you a surface. It was a bad experience.
Yeah. So when we talked about all the trauma and everything you've been through, that really highlights how intensive an experience you built a foundation from.
And even close out kind of how that I ended up back in foster care, kind of closing out that chapter. And even how some of that still kind of plays in today, because I've had even experiences recently working in the line of work that I do at the hospital. And because of the last name that I have, about a couple years ago, ran into my adoptive father's, one of his biological son's wife. Because I was checking out, I think getting some food at the hospital.
Yeah.
And somebody said, your last name, Levert, you're in Cleveland. Everybody, are you related to you got a cousin or somebody here too. And I kind of remembered who it was, I'm like, yeah. And me and her had talked, and they was like, we don't know what happened to you. Because nothing too. They were like, you just disappeared.
Oh, so they
We
couldn't
were
even fill in
told
the
you were a
blank.
bad kid. So a lot of people we don't know what happened
You sat
to
outside and said, no more. More kids need to do
Well, part of it, I was afraid to go in the house. We had
Yeah.
altercation, and I just got stationary. I think we were coming home, and I think we were literally getting whooped it was so just so threatening, because I think what happened, and it just tells you something too. I had stole some oatmeal because they weren't feeding us. I took some regular Quaker oats and used bathroom hot sink water to eat. And they had found that somebody had got into something, and basically it was a whole big deal, and we were going to get a whooping, or he was just very irate. We were in the car, and we were leaving school in the back seat. And I don't remember what I said, but kind of like, well, if you kind of stand up, if y'all would have fed us or something like that too. And my adopted father, he rarely cursed. And I kind of want to say something about him too, because that was a man who I think more, heavily disciplinarian. And when you think about his age group, mid-70s now, he kind of grew up a certain way too.
He probably thought some of what he was doing was correct. And this does not condone it.
It doesn't,
but most people who do bad things do it because they think they're doing the right thing.
And for him, I think I have a lot of grace, because I really think that was the case too. Versus my adopted woman, the woman he married, that woman is evil. And to this day, I will say that she is evil. She was manipulated because it was not only the physical, but the emotional trauma and just what she did. Some things I don't even think that he knew what was going on, but him and his passivity
allowed for
he
it.
did not allow, and he didn't stand up.
Yeah.
And for me, it caused a lot of hurt and pain, even so much so when I think about some of the other siblings who were in that household. The younger one, from what I heard, she's fine. It's something like she was like the golden child. I don't know if it was something cognitively that they were looking for. She had found her perfect baby, because I don't think my adopted, from what I heard, she never had kids of her own. My adopted father, that was his second marriage.
Yeah. So there's something in your dynamic, maybe because you were a strong, willful kid, that they wanted to be more aggressive with you.
The other one, he just recently got out of jail. He spent most of his young, and he's about a year too younger than me, in jail. And my heart breaks for him, because even when, I won't say exactly what he did or spent too much time there too, but what he did, it was out of a place of desperation. I know that because me and him experienced a lot of stuff together, and I got out. The older one, and I was the second oldest, even the one before too, she still has gone through a lot of emotional and mental trauma from what I've heard.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
Because
I'm sure
of
that's
that
really
too,
happening.
but even seeing kind of what's going on, because I understand as an adult now, and I'm still a young adult, but just life is that's much more complicated than just, hey, you should have done this, you should have did this, I would have done
It's not
this.
black and white, is it?
It's not.
No. I
But
love
some
the
of
word grace, by the way. It's a few times you've used that. It's a great word.
But I think dealing with some of the foster parents, man, they made it no better, because even it's like if you have a child coming to you knowing they have these set of challenges too,
Yeah.
I would think that you would have a certain level of understanding, and that was most of the time that was not the case.
You have to parent more intelligently, more intensely, more dedicated than the average parent has to do.
And they
Foster
thinking like, it's my
parenting
house.
is very hard.
This my house. It's that mentality too. They're not gentle in how they approach you. And so a lot of my issues I kind of ran into, I stuck up for myself.
I know you did.
And many times too, it was like, and sometimes not the best way. Where
I backed you on those too, because you got that little voice going when you're little, and I was like, I get it. It wasn't always the way you did it. There might have been a different
I probably
way.
could have used a better
but your
language.
voice was right. You had the right voice. You didn't always have the right timing. You had the right voice.
Or I could have said things with better language, or because some of it was, and they kind of looked at it. And I think even too, it's kind of mindset. I even talked to my friends who grew up in kind of black households too. It's my house. You do what I say. Children to be seen and not spoken to. Very old school approach.
Some of the old school,
and it's like that is not
just doesn't work anymore. I don't know that it ever did, but it doesn't with kids who have been traumatized.
No,
it does not work. And to not blame these foster families in the cases where they do that, the system has to teach them better. We need more money in the system. We need more education. So these families who are giving of themselves to foster,
because they are, and that's the thing I do want to.
Some of them are beautiful souls. But they don't know what they don't know. They don't know how to do that.
Or I think they encounter more than they anticipate. I think they don't realize what all is that they want. And again, me knowing what some of the kids go through and they had to deal with the foster parents for me, they didn't have to deal with much for me. If anything, I had a smart mouth, and I was going to challenge.
You were. But easy compared to some kids.
Yeah, but I was going to go to school. You didn't have to worry about me skipping school. I was going to take care of my grades.
Yeah.
I probably, was I going to lie and tell some fibs? Yeah, but many times it was out of place of either embarrassment.
But that, again, the average child does this. It's so
why is it treated so?
We need more education. I've always thought that we need to pay our foster parents better. We need to resource them better. We need to screen them better and educate them better. And then we have this beautiful
can do some
group.
advocacy work there too. I mean, I don't know how I can play a part into that. I don't know who to talk to about that, because I do think that's something, again, and I think as you do that too, I think that's part of the thing. The outcomes of, I think, foster youth will be better.
I mean, with what you went through, your case is not the typical case. What you experienced, you should not be here. So we're not using your case to say it's okay if the foster program is not working, because you are an extreme exception.
Or even something I want to touch on here today too, that I'm not the blueprint that for every foster child to be successful, they have to want to go be a doctor or they have to finish college. I think that's another thing that needs to happen too, creating more programming around giving them usable skills where they can, again, make a living for themselves too. And that's another thing I'll say too. We can't also just throw money as a part of it. You have to put more money in funding, especially if it's for education, because I think about my scholarship program, they were meeting all the money needs too.
And that was all private funding, wasn't it?
Yeah, to the Sullivan and Deckard family, and I think there was some other families outside of that, but the main.
But it was like it wasn't a government funded. It was an endowment.
And they gave about $2.3 million at the time too, and still continue to support that too. And I want to thank those families, because
the proof is in the pudding. Is that the same?
Especially too when the odds weren't there. You're putting money into something where they're saying, "Hey, more than likely these kids are not going to finish."
Yeah.
But somehow they saw in Dr. Pratt, like they saw something there, and we're going to do what we can. I think again, it was 10 people in my cohort, 4 of us finished. Those 6. That's 40%.
That's a pretty good stat.
It is.
That's a good stat for even just college kids in general.
Yeah, because I think, again, if you come from a non-traditional family, not two-parent household, what is 50%? It's about 50, and then it drops. So that's the thing about it, too. So, again, money, time, and resources there, too. But there's a lot of emotional and mental work that needs to be done. Agreed. I mean, there needs to be things as far as, again, preparing foster youth academically if they choose to. Because it's one of those things, too. I feel like as a child, if you aspire to do certain things, I think part of growing up is that you should be given everything you can to, even if just to believe that you can. Because I think a big part of belief, yes.
Yeah.
And so.
I feel like we need a part 2. I'm so excited because now I'm like, okay, here's this beautiful story, this unique story. And I know you want to be an advocate. You have been an advocate. how do we then take people like you and turn you into the change makers? How do you affect change with your story? And I think that's the next step on this. And I'm hoping people will also hear it and think, oh, I can help there. I can be part of that, because there's so much to be done, Antonio, right?
And
so
let me
much to
know.
be done.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm still working and striving towards some professional goals, but even to, relational goals, mental goals. Like there are a lot of things that I'm working towards too. And
Yeah. It's an ongoing journey, isn't it?
It is.
With for anyone, but for you especially, because you're carrying that heavy little, there's a little bit of a cape in your superhero cape that's heavy at times. And you gotta work a little harder.
But that's life, and I think that's the biggest thing. It's life.
Yeah.
But you just keep pressing and you keep working and you rely. One thing I would stress more than anything, your community, because it's just as much as you can look at all the things that went wrong. There are a lot of people I can say now I'm kind of recognized that are cheering for me, and vice versa. I'm cheering for them, but there's a relationship that's there that's mutual.
Yeah.
For me to become just the best version of myself, even again beyond the career, beyond all these other measures that we use, just for me to kind of dream and become whatever I have kind of set my eyes on too. Even I think about just other things, advocacy work, a family one day, wife, things like that.
And you mentioned community a couple of times, and I know that's a key point for you. Are there any other pieces of advice you'd give to a young person, maybe in foster care right now, that's hoping that their experience can be valuable as they go? Any other piece of advice you'd have for them?
There's some good people out there. There are some genuine good people out there too, and for me, I would say it's been my faith, but like using that. But what's the saying? It's to give love a second try. Just get out there and give it another try. There are some people out there who genuinely want the best for you, and and be open to those people, because there will be a lot of mutual benefit that's there too, and I think it'll play a very key role in ways that you can't even imagine. That it will help you become what you need to be too.
And you said mutual, because they're that young person, it has to be this foster care, they're going to give so much back to the people they're with too. They're going to learn so much.
Even when I would think about we talked about community of hope earlier, that was the biggest thing too. I think a lot of them, they came to the table thinking, here we are. Like the reason why you're here is because of me too. But really the way it was designed and what we call my faith discipleship, I'm like, man, and because she was a believer and we were saying faith, I found that at her funeral was that it was like discipleship 101. Many people were coming there thinking about what they were going to give to this young person. But I said, if you allowed it to work the way it was supposed to work, and I'm kind of just seeing, I'm like, wow, she really, and I think she was in social work. You were supposed to benefit too. Because there's something you can learn from that young person too. And I think a lot of times people come in like, how do I go in and help them? We have something to provide to you too.
Oh, I love that.
We have something to provide as well.
Absolutely. And so when people want to make change, it's a relationship. It's not somebody swooping down out of pity to save you. It is a relationship.
Yeah, what can we do? Because I think a lot of times people, and again, I get them wanting to do that, and I'm like, man, first just really build a relationship there. Try to genuinely understand. And I think out of a relationship, there are a lot of things that kind of happen. People kind of let their guards down. You start to see and learn things from them. They learn things from you. And as a result, there's this beautiful thing that kind of just happens, that it kind of happens naturally. Yeah. Because one of the biggest things that's common, like, I'm human, you're human.
I was just going to say, I was like, we're just humans trying to get along. You said it right as I thought it.
And it's like, wow, whether it be, perfect. Part of it might be encouraging to you to keep moving and progressing. Like, wow, like I never, so yeah.
And the faith of knowing that people can have really, you gave us a really tough window into what your first 9 years of life was. And yet to have the faith to know it can be okay. You can come out of that. Wow.
Even so to me, and then from the 9 years from there too, and then going on to like even just like what happened in kind of college and young adulthood, and I'm just getting to the point where I feel like I'm, quote unquote, whatever normal is. It's like, I'm just like, I'm like, hey, there's nothing different from me compared to any other young adult has gone through certain changes, even getting out there and working in your career, trying to work and balance going back to school and continue to progress and work towards goals that you have, getting back up and dusting yourself off where you made mistakes, and not allowing those things to kind of limit you.
Not that you're a cookie cutter or anything.
No, because even the world will limit you. I mean, they'll sit here and say, well, if you've done this and this too, you can't become this. And one of the biggest things I use now, especially now, I'm talking about this kind of started happening mid last year, but this year going forward, I've been through hell and back. If I can get through that, I can get through anything else. And I just use that as my fuel at this point.
I've been scarred and battered. My dreams done worlds.
I
got Langston Hughes in my head, Antonio.
Yep. I didn't get this far to die on the wayside as the
Still I rise.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something in that. And that, that's what we write, Anton Fisher story, to your point. That's what we write stories about. We love that somebody got kicked and hit and smudged and still came up. Because there's not much of a story without it. So you got a hell of a story. Do you have one word to describe your journey so far? I always say or two. Did you just groan over there?
I'm trying to think. Give me 1 second. One word to describe my story. I'll say two, but I've said to me resilience. But even recently, somebody told me it's like a what is it? A phoenix.
Change.
Phoenix, or just rising from ashes. It's like even when you see me, when you think I'm down for the count, and they count up to 10, and it's like, and I pop right back up. So
I think those are both metaphors for that. This kind of thing. It's almost like in the horror movie.
It's a mystical creature, if you want to say it too. But somebody said it too, and if I had to define myself like a phoenix rising from the ashes. So you can count me out. You can use this and say, well, this and this happened, and he's going to turn this where he did this too, so he's this type of person. I mean, that's what you think too. I said, but just, keep watching.
I keep thinking, still I rise. I'm getting all poetic over here, but now you're my Angelou to me with her. You can do this, but you know what? Still I rise.
And I'm the one you don't see coming.
I love it.
That's the part that kind of,
Well, I don't think people that know you day to day would have any idea, because you don't live your life walking around with a trauma and an aggression. They would have probably no idea what you've been through.
But that's will now. The thing is, that's most people though, and I think that's a lesson that you learn. Yeah. Don't judge a book by its cover,
because you don't know.
You don't know the story.
Be kind. Does that go back to
open up the book and read? Yeah.
Yeah. And just
they call it the golden rule: treat others the way you want to be treated. It's it's simple.
It's hard to do sometimes. Hard to do. We need to do a part 2. I don't think we're
done. Yeah, let's do it.
I think next time's advocacy. What the heck are you going to do in this world? All of us. I love it.
Yes.
And maybe unfolding the foster care story a little bit more and how we can help these kids.
Okay.
It's a complicated subject.
Thanks for listening to the Mental Health Spotlight podcast, helping you hold hope on your recovery path.